Hello, everybody.
And yeah, he's a PhD candidate and research associate with focus on circular economy and business model innovation at the University of St. Gallen. And he did his bachelor in business administration at the University of Zurich, and his master in political economy at the University of Lucerne. And I hope everything was right. And yeah, now he will introduce you the circular economy.
Cool. Thank you for the opportunity talking with you about sustainability, circular economy in special. Hello, everybody from around St. Gallen or far away. I try in the next 20 minutes to come to circular economy from a meta perspective and going down to the company level and show you some examples, but that you get a feeling. I start with really big perspective at all. So first of all, the question that I always ask in companies, in workshop formats, Germany, in Holland, or in Switzerland, and I think this question drives circular economy from the bottom on. What would you do differently today if you were responsible for taking back all the products you sold? I once asked that question in Germany to a polymer manufacturer, and he was silent for about 1 minute. And I was like, did I say something wrong? And then two guys raised their hand and said, I would quit my job and go. And I was like, probably is another, I mean, that's also a solution probably, but I show you some solution that probably a little bit more market oriented. So first of all, why do we need circular economy? I think that's a central question. And you heard about it before the coronavirus was on the top of media awareness. One topic, and it's really closely linked to circular economy, is the question of carbon dioxide emissions and the climate heating. So to keep it really short, we're talking about resources today, but this is a topic because it's related and we see it's an urgent one. So 18 out of 19 warmest year in human history were between 2001 and today, with 2016 the warmest year ever. So if we don't change rapidly in the next some years, we have a big problem. So, but I show you after how it's linked to circular economy. So the other issue for people not really believing in climate change, waste. It's a visible problem and we see it everywhere, probably except Switzerland because we are really good in cleaning. But we have the same problem here as well. So 2 kilograms waste per day per person, one of the highest rates in the world. In whole or in total, worldwide, 2.5 million tons of waste every day, and it goes up to around 6 million tons per day in 2025. So a big problem because it goes also to environment. Another issue, it's really relevant for companies also, that we see there is no, I mean, the charts are in German, but you understand it. There is no significant raise in life satisfaction among people in Germany, as an example, but it's similar for other countries, also in Switzerland, since 1970s. So the GDP grow rate is really high, a lot of more resources we consumed and materials and so on, but life satisfaction stayed constant. So we polluting environment, but we don't get happier. So that's an interesting fact there. When we do our workshops and our work with companies, we orientate ourselves at the planetary boundary concept. It shows us the safe operating space for human actions. And what we see is around 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries are already above a critical boundary. So we see as climate change is above, it's yellow over there. We see also biodiversity loss or nitrogen cycle. It goes into farming and so freshwater use. So we are really above critical level. And here you see it's it's not only climate change, we see a lot of different other aspects where circular economy is linked to. So another question, what we should ask ourselves always, and when we work together with companies, is the question, what are the consequences of our way we dealing with the natural ecosystems? So the first is biodiversity loss. I said that before, 1 million species are on the edge to be extinct by 2050. Environmental disasters are increasing rapidly. Only in Switzerland, the ETH has like a prediction, and they say like 1 billion extra costs per year because of environmental problems, like cooling, like with air conditioner, or new heat systems, or train tracks that get damaged, or like here with water and so on. So a big externality problem we have. And the exploitation of resources, for sure. When we look at the footprint we have in Switzerland compared to the global biocapacity, we are above 3 times. So how we deal with resources doesn't work on a big scale. Luckily, it's we have some countries below, but in total we are like around June, or I think June, we already reached the overshoot day. And the question we also have to ask, we don't when we're looking at the corona situation right now, it's not only how to wear a mask properly, or if a vaccination is a good or a bad thing. We should also speak, and probably we should speak more about the consequences. Why do we have coronavirus? It's called in biology, it's called Zoonose in German. It's when a virus jumps from the animal kingdom to humans. So this jump from animals to people happens when we destroy ecosystems. So the probability that this virus can jump from one sphere to the other rises with ecosystem destruction. So in case of AIDS, in case of SARS, Ebola, Corona, it's always the same. So it should be also a big impulse also for companies to change. So to summarize it, sustainability is not a megatrend, it's an existential necessity. It's a quote, the company we work together, and I really appreciate that, because it summarizes what I just said. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want to change by design? That's what we still can do if we like hurry up, or by disaster. We use an approach that we include in our work with companies, a holistic view on sustainability, and we always have to start top down with environment, because it's not negotiable. I mean, if we overreach some boundaries, physical and thermodynamic boundaries, there is no way back. Society organizing, or we have to organize society in a way that it fits with the planetary boundary logic, and also the economy has to be within this framework. As a comparison, that you get a little bit of feeling, if we take the planetary boundary concept only for the level of climate change, we have to reduce our emissions from today 12 tons per person per year to 1 ton. A flight to New York and back is 4 tons. Now, if you're looking at the life budget you have, it's probably not so many, you can't fly so many times to New York and there's no CO2 left you can use. As a comparison, if you reduce your plastic bag amount or your plastic bag consumption in Migros or Coop, you have to go to 0 plastic bags for 1,500 years to compensate your flight to New York. So stop flying and use some plastic bags is probably better than in other direction. So When we're looking at circular economy, we always have to look at the other two sides. So you see on the left side, it's decarbonization. It's an integral part of circular economy. And we talk about reducing fossil fuels to zero and below, because only net positive doesn't work anymore to keep the climate on that level. We have to go below. I think 16 gigatons per year below. So with forests and also probably with technical solutions, but it's a little bit research going on in this field also. Circular economy in the middle, looking only at resources from at resources renewable, but also finite resources, because both of them are not like there forever in the amount we probably think to need it. Last but not least, the subject of sufficiency. So we have to start to talk about that we still are within the planetary boundaries. So we have to talk about degrow, and we have to talk about the possibility of technology innovation. So what can technology solve, and where probably we should reduce complexity and technology investment. I'll show you after an example of a company dealing with sufficiency from a really, really interesting perspective also. I think questions are at the end. If you have any questions or so, there's some minutes left at the end, I think. So, but now coming to the central aspect of circular economy, how can a company close the loop? First of all, easy illustration on the right side, linear economy. You take some resources, you make something out of it, you use it, and then you throw it away. If you take a normal t-shirt, probably after 8 times usage. So, or something else, probably a regularly Bosch, I'm not, how you say it, Bohrmaschine, you probably use it for around 10 minutes in a lifetime. So that's linear economy. And also negative externalities during the whole lifespan of the product. And on the left side, you see a part of the solution circular economy, where we try to close the loop and enrich it. It's not only closing, it make the loop larger and more narrow, as Bocken, a famous researcher in the field, tries to summarize it. So it's about, as you see on the top, it's about repairing services, it's about new kind of revenue models. I showed you that afterwards. It's about reuse, sharing, and so on. And then it's about remanufacturing processes, refurbished process. Then if it's bio-based, you probably can put it back to the biocycle or going into a recycling phase. Downcycling, or what we know from like PET bottles, it's they say it's recycling, but a big amount of the PET, it's only downcycling. So it's not closed loop in a sense of the PET goes back in a bottle. So that's circular economy on the left side, and on the right side, linearity. And now I try to bring it together. On the one side, circular economy, on the other side, business model innovation, because that's where like company have the biggest leverage, I think. So what is really, really crucial, and what we saw in more than 3 years research, is you have to look at circular economy not from a pure business model focus. You have to go more into an ecosystem perspective. Why? Because if you want to fulfill all the necessities in that cycle, you probably need more than one business model. You probably have a business model in the take phase. You have several business models in the make or the use phase, if you're thinking about the service model, for example, and then also in the recover and in the dispose phase, for sure. I have an example company ecosystem I work together, Where to Where, if you're interested in the topic. They are like leaded, orchestrated by Schöllers, and it's a company from the Rheintal, and they organized this whole cycle with a polymer-based workwear with 8 companies. So it's not only one business model, all of that of the companies involved have an own business model. So a short definition, a circular ecosystem coordinates itself across the business models of different complementors, as we say in ecosystem research, to create a sustainable value proposition with closed resource loops that are based on an aligned product design. And I think this is a really crucial aspect, and we heard afterwards from Marco Ilaria about the product design, probably something, because if you don't have the right product design, I mean, you can throw it away. So for refurbishment, for recycling process, you need the right product design. That's why I put it on the left side down there. Design is key. Come back to that in some more minutes. What is really important also, again, to take that where-to-where case is you need a common vision among the partners. If they don't have, and also in a research I do right now on barriers with 60 SMEs, we did interviews in Switzerland, textile and other industries. We see that if they do not have a perspective of time, the same perspective of time, so a long perspective of time, and not only thinking like in this really silly, short, like 3 or 4 month time spans, then you can't handle circular economy, because circular economy lives from a really, really long cycle of resources. And what is also interesting and also really important for SMEs, if you're looking at the circular ecosystem, you start to be, before you are in a competition and after you are partners probably, because you have, you can provide a part to a shared value proposition. I think that's really, really important. Come away, and that's also in sufficiency research, there is also a tendency to go towards more partnerships and coming away from this 1980s competition business administration perspective, I think. So looking at what we did as research, we created a navigator process helping companies step by step innovating their own business model, but also the business model of their partners. So we created a 7-step navigator. You can look it up if you're interested for free, surely on alexandria.unisg.ch. And I only go quickly into the navigator process. It's quite more, it's not really complex, but we need more time to go in depth to all the steps necessary to create your own business model or ecosystem in that case. So what is really interesting, if you start to ideate the idea of how your own and the partner business model could look like, you have to take it away from your company and looking at the whole from an ecosystem level. So looking already when you're doing with partners, ideating a proper solution, then do it always from the top level and looking at the ecosystem level, and then start to build your own vision. We put that as imagine, and then go to incorporate, and in the end to implement. But I will come to only 2 aspects, ideate and integrate, on the next slide, because I think, sorry, it's really, really important to build your own circular ecosystem. So time horizon, I said already. Orchestrator role, if you don't have a group of people that feel obliged to change, it doesn't work. But it's, I mean, it's normal with every change project, but it's for circular economy, and because there are really long process to change a whole design of probably a whole product chain. So you need more time. In the case of where-to-where, they worked more than 7 years only on product design, and they created a modular workwear that have like the filaments before, but then the membranes and the fabrics, they have all the same melting point, that in the end they can melt, they can melt it down at once. And they use yarn for the zippers and the buttons that melts a little bit earlier. So they can take out the buttons and the zippers, and then melt down the rest. They use also like CO2 some facilities because it's way more sustainable. So now the core of my research is we identified 40. We bring together the business and the sustainability perspective. So first of all, you have to close the cycle. That's crucial. So 3 elements there: product reuse, part reuse, recycling. Circular economy, that's everything you need for circular economy, and probably bio-based material if you do it like in a cradle-to-cradle way. You need circular design, and probably you can use waste as input as in the take phase, that you don't need virgin resources. You always, also in circular economy, you always need some virgin resources. You can't close a cycle 100%. It doesn't work from a thermodynamic perspective and entropy perspective. Probably you heard about that before. And what is really, really important there, that's why we also have to think about the whole system size, because you always need virgin material. We can't only go into circular economy with all products. Also, there is a limit from energy perspective, for example. And talking about reverse logistics is the last pattern you can use to close the loop. But to be sustainable, and that's what I tried to say at the beginning, you also have to improve the loop. So think about the sustainability of the loop, and here you have different options. You can do like think about local production to reduce logistic costs. You can think about dematerialization, for example, so reduce the material you use in a product. As an example, the textile I explained before. Think about maintenance repair, as for example, nudie jeans from Scandinavia, where you can easily repair your jeans that you don't have to buy new ones. Also virtualization, what you're doing right now. I'm not sure if it's working, but we see that after 1 or 2 years. But it's also a really interesting option to reduce some elements of the planetary boundary concepts I showed you before. On the other side, and I always say, we don't need companies to do circular economies, but companies need circular economy to do their work. So companies can think about new innovative revenue models. So how to monetize their loop. I mean, normally you can sell a product and hope to get it back. But if there is probably no incentive, it doesn't come back. So we have to think about new mechanisms. So service models or rent instead of buy, probably heard that in some classes you had already, or you can think about revenue sharing models or dynamic pricing, but that's only a mean, how you said, a mean to the end. So a Mittel zum Zweck, the revenue model. I mean, if the people are from a behavior perspective, if the people think it's the right thing to bring that product back, you don't need another revenue model. It works. But as we know, the people got lazy in the last years because of a lot of convenient stuff we can buy and so on. So we need to overcomplicate the system right now to incentivize the people. And the last one, not to forget the user. It's really important to think about the user. So think about probably the prosumer pattern as a Fairphone, where you can upgrade your phone by your own, putting a new battery in it or a new software on it. Think about sharing, or eco Robin Hood model, or circle luxury. There are a lot of things involving the consumer to enrich your circular solution. That it's not only nice because it's circular, that it's nice because it's probably an add-on. Yeah. I see I have 3 more minutes. I hope I'm in time. I'm looking to Alenia. Is it fine for you?
Yeah, no problem.
So I show you some examples. You asked me if I can show you some examples of companies dealing with circular economy in a special way. One I like is this carpet producer. Probably you know it. It's Interface from the USA, a really big company, billion turnover or so. They created a modular carpet system where if something like if you spill coffee on it, you don't have to take everything out. You can only take out an element of the carpet and then put another one in it. So really easy to repair. They also need aquanil, for example, as a garment made out of waste as input pattern. So from plastic from the oceans, as an example. And they do not sell their carpets anymore. They lease it to the customer. So you can lease the carpet because you don't have to own your carpet as a business. I mean, why? And what is really interesting is their boss, Ray Anderson, and former CEO and founder. And he said in 1994, he said, I want to have a net negative company, or he said first he want a net zero company from a carbon dioxide perspective in 2020. And he reached that after more than 20 years. So corporate vision, really interesting. And now he started to, he want to give nature something back, as he claims it. I'm not sure if it works from an LCA perspective, but they created now a carpet that stores CO2. So a net negative carpet. So we led it to the ETH to prove that. Another company, Blueland, also from the USA, they created a cleaning household a gadget where you don't have to buy always like 2 liters of water. You only buy that small capsule and you put it in your bottle and you shake it and then you clean your window or whatever you like. So they reduced logistic costs because of the weight, and they enriched the whole value proposition of a really in a really interesting way. The German people probably know Infarm. You have it in Edeka, I think, in Germany. They jumped over a whole supply chain in the food industry and provide like salads and other vegetables directly in supermarkets. And they say it's more sustainable, also from different LCA perspectives. Another one, they did some trials in Paris and New York, I think. They are called Loop. What they're doing everything reusable in like daily convenient products like muesli or like orange juice or whatever. So, and you get them in a box, and you can, after they are empty, you can put it in a box, and DHL get them and brings them back. What is really interesting, they say they have a 30% lower carbon dioxide emission with that solution. This one is the one with sufficiency. It's called Vitsoe. It's original from a Scandinavian designer, I think, and they created a really modular way of interior design. So, and they say that you have a lifelong guarantee on it. And their sales managers, they don't get more money at the end of the year if they sell more products. They are like paid by keeping customers and customer relationship management. And so it's really interesting how they look or take what we normally think it's always more. They inverted it and created their own vision of dealing, for example, with furniture. Really interesting. Where to wear, I already explained. My favorite one for sure, and the main part in my dissertation project. In the end, it's nothing more to say than thank you for listening, and I hope you have the chance in your life to change something, also to go in a cool company and change the way of thinking and dealing with our limited resources. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Fabian, very much also for bringing these super interesting examples of companies that already are in this, circular economy sector, if I can say it like that. So I just saw in the chat, we already have a question from Marco. Should we already answer it now, or what do you prefer?
Thank you. I mean, this question, I want to say it, it was on the slide. Thank you for put it on the plate again, for sure. I mean, we are in the 21st century, and we have the chance, also the youngsters as we are, to say we need governance for change. I mean, the 80s and the 90s are over, and the time where economists say government has to be out of business, I think this time is over. Also, when you're looking at like procurement as an example, and the where-to-where example I show you, Marco already has is pleased by that answer. The where-to-where example, they changed the way of looking at the design of their textiles because the Dutch government changed procurement law. They said we only buy stuff, textiles, for example, for ambulance or police officers, only if it's circular. And the whole industry changed. So we have to go to politics and say we need new laws, recycling rates, procurement rates, or another example. So another like intuitive example is Sweden. Sweden, where we see they reduce the VAT tax, I think around like 20% or something like that for repair services. And now we see everywhere new repair shops because it's more profitable to do a repair service if labor costs are lower. So second question.
Thank you very much for your answer. So yeah, now Valentin is asking about maybe the list of the sustainable companies that you said. We can also maybe write them then on our social media and stuff. So yeah, I think everyone appreciated the examples.
So the white paper I showed you on the one on this slide has a big list around 250 companies per pattern, 5 companies. So check that up and yeah, then you see it.
Perfect, thanks. And so now I think it's the moment for a quick break. We will just make a 5-minute break. And now we move on. Our next speaker will be Ilaria. She's responsible for the coordination at Circular Economy Switzerland. And she studied business administration at the University of Basel and then did her master in journalism and organizational communication in Fribourg. After Ilaria, also Marco will speak. He's from Circular Hub, which is a network platform for circular economy here in Switzerland, but he will explain it better to you. He works there as a project manager, and a few years ago, he studied international management at the ZHW in Winterthur. And in fact, he did his bachelor thesis about key enabling factors in the transition towards a circular economy. So we really have experts here. Thanks again for joining us. And yeah, now Ilaria will go on.
Thank you very much, Lena, for this introduction. I will now start to try to share our slides. I think I have to share my screen first and then do that. All right. So, can you all see the first slide?
Yes.
That's okay. Thank you for feedback. So, yeah, just quick remark about my introduction. Thank you very much. But just to make sure, I do not have a big background in business administration, but in communication. I started in my bachelor's, studied English and media sciences, and then in my master's degree at University of Fribourg, I studied communication studies and media research. So this is my background, just to make sure that I don't have an economic background as such. So anyway, thank you as well, Fabian. Thanks a lot for your thorough introduction into the circular economy and for trying to really break it down into like what it is, because it's a very complex topic, right? So, and also thank you for having us, connecting and giving us the opportunity to present Circular Economy Switzerland. And later I will refer to Circular Economy Switzerland as CES, so I don't always have to say the whole name. To present CES and what we do. So my background, how I got in touch with circular economy is that I come from a communication side, but I always wanted to connect it somehow with sustainability, like in some way. That's how I got in touch with the concept of circular economy, and thereby understanding how essential it is to close the loops, as also Fabian has said beforehand, in all kinds of processes on all levels. So, and since May, I've been working for the coordination office of Circular Economy Switzerland. We're organized decentrally, and we act as a movement to help promote circular economy in Switzerland, as the name already suggests, obviously. So turning to our vision is that Switzerland has completed the transition from a linear to a circular economy. So what also, as you've seen with the graphics that Fabian presented before. In this way, the country is contributing to global sustainable development and is strengthening its own position as a location for business. Our mission then is to promote the circular economy in Switzerland at all levels, as I've also said previously. And our movement should be the driving force behind these efforts to make or to create a market for circular economy products and services, and to raise awareness, to sensitize people of the concept of circular economy in the business world and among the general public. So we bring together enthusiastic proponents of circular economy be it from the private sector, from civil society, politics, and administration, and promote cooperation, knowledge sharing across all industries and all fields. So this is our mission. But how did we start? So a number of organizations has been supported by the same two foundations. And as the foundations both work or both support projects that have an overall objective, each to promote circular economy solutions, they decided to work together and to find synergies between these projects that they support. So with the time, it became clear that there were also other important actors in the field of circular economy outside of this circle, and that there was necessity to build some sort of like an umbrella organization that brings together all these existing activities and organizations. And this is actually how the idea of building a movement called Circular Economy Switzerland came into being. So it has been an evolution over time, over the past 2 years, and it started with the launch for the Swiss-German part in its organizations in Basel, and this took place in February 2019. And yeah, that was first launched actually not too long ago, so it's still quite a new movement, as you can see. And in order to also reach the Romandie, the French-speaking part, obviously the second launch took place in Lausanne in August, also the same year, last year. So who is behind this movement? Here you can see the initiators behind the movement. It's a list of organizations, including the projects and which each aim at closing specific loops in different sectors. They're all supported by the MAVA Foundation. You can see on the right, and Engagement Micro Fund. So for example, ECHOS has the project of Circle City Switzerland, where they're trying to close loops in different cities in Switzerland, as the name already says, in all sorts of processes. Then Push has a project to make furniture circular, as it says, so keep reusing and redistributing furniture, repairing, and so on, just to name a couple of concepts. Everything is a lot more complex though. Swiss Economic Forum organized the C2. It's one of the major events in Switzerland, also called Circular Economy Entrepreneurs. Who is Nick has a project called Move the Date Switzerland. They aim at more sensitizing, I'd say, the public, also younger people, if you've heard of it, also like being present more in social media. Then a Circular Hub with their, let's say, learning hub, but it's also called Circular Hub. So Marco will be talking about this, what they're doing later on. Then we have a Yodel Foundation. They also organize an event called Shift, one of the also other major events in circular economy in Switzerland. And Sanu Durabilitas and Impact Hub work together on circular economy transition. So this is just a real quick overview, but I won't dive go more into detail about it. So, new charter members. So we as a movement provide a pool, let's say, of several organizations from different sectors and also politicians that support our vision and mission, and they have signed the charter of CES. In this way, they're being part of our network. The charter then itself, like as a self-declaration, signaling the commitment to really support the shift from a linear economy to a circular economy in Switzerland. And up until today, our network is ever more growing, and more organizations and politicians have signed our charter, as you can see on our website. So this is a screenshot on the right from our website underneath charter. And there are more than 160 actors today. Our aim hereby is to connect these organizations that are part of our network. We want to make use of synergies and to create an overview about what organizations or people there are, like what projects they carry out in the field of circular economy in Switzerland. So this might also be to people that asked before about list of sustainable company in a sense, but that really are trying to close loops with their projects. This might be of interest to you. So this is about the involvement in CES. So we're organized decentrally and spread throughout Switzerland, and all the activities are being coordinated by us. So with us, I mean the coordination office. And this illustration shows our different levels of involvement according to the principle of a ladder of engagement. So meaning that going from the outer circle towards the inner circle, the engagement with the movement increases. And this also means at the same time, the ability to shape CES strategically. So this means here at the core, you see the executive committee. It's at the core of the movement, but also at the core of the strategy. And it's made up of these initiators that I have presented before on the slide with the logos. But I won't dive into this in more detail. I just wanted to give you an overview about how we are organized. Exactly. So what do we do precisely to foster exchange and cooperation? So now I'll be showing you some of our current activities or events that we host as a network in different sectors or fields. So as I've mentioned before, CE2 is organized by the Swiss Economic Forum. It's one of the biggest events for circular economy in Switzerland. It brings together important actors in the field with presentations, plenary discussions, deep dive sessions, workshops, and so on. The first time it ever took place was only in June 2019. So it's still also relatively new, and we've also taken part in it, also in the deep dive sessions to specific topics, and also had a booth to promote the movement of CES. So this is here's some photos of this year's event, which is only the second time it took place. Then the other big event, as I mentioned, is Shift, organized by Yodel Foundation. It's also a yearly event, SE2, and it's more in the form of a fair. It takes place between 1 to 3 days. So focusing on more in a mutual initiation of business transactions, as they formalize it. And we always organize a stakeholder workshop there every year as part of the program. We also organize other workshops throughout the year with partners or non-partners as well, try to include as many organizations as possible that share the same vision. And the focus thereby really lies on finding these synergies and ways that organizations working in the same or a similar direction can best cooperate with each other. So this graphic here illustrates best what we do. It's actually a result of one of our workshops. So here, every line stands for a possible cooperation between two organizations each. And this is really the core of our work, of what we do as a, let's say, as the umbrella organization or movement. This year, we also had a partnership with Ricardo, My Climate in 20 Minutes, for the first National Secondhand Day. I'm not sure if anyone of you heard of it. It took place first time on 26 November this year, and the aim with the Secondhand Day was to help sensitize the public for secondhand products and help make the image of secondhand become less, let's say, dusty. So our task then within this setting was to set secondhand as a form of reuse into the bigger context of circular economy. This is just a tiny loop, as you've seen before in Fabian's graphics. It's a tiny loop among all the other processes, but nevertheless, obviously absolutely relevant, as consumption, you know, is an everyday topic. And yeah, on the screenshot, you can also see how much carbon dioxide was saved by selling secondhand products on that one day as opposed to new products. So, turning to our aims. We want organizations and people with a common vision to sign our charter and become part of the movement. Within this network, then, we want to foster cooperation in connecting relevant actors together to more and more create this community in order to make the best use of and create synergies and really foster this exchange. We also want the network to become bigger, to promote the movement, and ultimately, obviously, to be able to facilitate and promote the implementation of solutions in the field of circular economy on all levels and sectors. Excuse me. So our self-understanding thereby is the one of we're a movement, we're a network, a platform for exchange, and maybe even some sort of mediation panel. So I'm also trying to end my part with some sort of call to action. Yeah, so if you want to become part of the network, or if you, like you as students, or if you know an organization or work for an organization, be it now during your studies or when you start your professional career, if you know an organization or yourself that shares the same vision, that really wants to promote circular economy in Switzerland, sign the charter of CES. This can be done via the online forum on our website. I will indicate the link on the next slide. And this on the right, you see the screenshot of our online forum. Also, if you need more information on circular economy on our network, you can, this is on the left, the screenshots of our home website. You can find more information there. On the right side, there is the link. And feel free to contact us if you have any questions. We're here to help. We are also currently planning to implement a sub-site with important resources to learn more about the concept of circular economy in order to provide an overview of the most important resources that are out there. And unfortunately, I did not check the time. I'm sorry if I just a little bit overstepped. But then I would like to pass on to Marco from Circular Hub, who is one of the initiators that helped move CES.
Thanks, Ilaria. Hello, everyone. Sorry, Fabian, I have to disappoint you. I'm not telling you anything more about like product design. I'm rather we're the head of like the enthusiastic like proponent of circular economy. So at Circular Hub, I'm the academy lead for circular economy, and so Circular Hub is kind of like the network and knowledge platform when it comes to circular economy in Switzerland. And the overall goal is kind of like to introduce projects or like accelerate the creation of projects which are creating like a CO2 neutral economy. That's kind of like our goal. If you go to the next slide, so sorry, my headphones are connecting to my iPhone. So perfect. So on this slide, you kind of see an overview of what we're doing and how we kind of like want to foster this transition towards this CO2 neutral economy. One, we do it through the magazine, the online magazine. Two, we do have an academy part as well. Three is the consulting part. And four are our own projects. I'll get to them in a minute a bit further. If we go to the next slide, you can see kind of like what we see as our, that's like our team as well. Yeah, we're a team of 6 people who are working at Circular Hub. But if you go on the next slide, Ilaria, I think that's even more important. Like that's what we currently see as like the biggest challenge. And I think Fabian has like introduced you to them already enough, but kind of like the emissions or like the CO2 emissions are kind of like the cause of all the other like problems we have. Loss of biodiversity, climate change, and so on and so on. And so that is kind of like the reason for us to come up with our definition of circular economy. And if we go to the next slide, we like having a definition for a circular economy is quite broad. I mean, there are like more than 120 definitions according to Kircher, but I think what we have to do is like starting now. So therefore we do not like define a circular economy, which is like a whole economic system. We define rather the term circularity, and this gives us the opportunity to kind of like start now, because we keep resources, we think like products, but also like humankind, and keep them in the loop at the highest value and for as long as possible in the system. And I think that's quite important for us. So we want to start now and get to this aim or end goal of the CO2 neutral economy. Yeah, if we go to the master the transition, so I mentioned already kind of like the 4 pillars we have, and in the online magazine, we really want to, sorry, Ilaria, if you can go on the next slide. So we really want to kind of like inspire people step by step. So we want to give them kind of like basic knowledge, but we also want to inspire them by like writing use cases about like innovative companies who have implemented a circular product already, or who have gone like through the transition already, and who will tell you about kind of like what were the stumbling blocks they came across, and what can you do to like go around them, or yeah, just give you best practices as well. Then in the academy part, it's quite similar to the magazine. At the end, it's all about like inspiring, and it's also about like empowering actors along the value chain. And so like in our public courses, we have kind of like these like, or we give you kind of like the basics about circular economy, but we also want to invite like people from the industry who will tell you kind of like what they have done and how you can do it. We want to also give you kind of like an overview of the whole ecosystem. And I think that's what Fabian said already. You have to think in ecosystem, and kind of like these courses are here to kind of like show you the ecosystem, and then create ideas yourself. Create ideas, go back to your company and convince your manager. So that's the first stepping stone, we say. In the implementation or in the consultancy, I think that sounds really old-fashioned, so I don't like this term, to be honest. But at the end, it's also empowering companies, but it's way more important is kind of like build solutions based on a common ground. I mean, it's super important to kind of set this like common ambition, have top management support, empower middle management, empower every employee to reach this goal of a fully circular company. If we go to the next slide, we have our own own projects as well. So we want to be, it's a fairly new topic, and there has to be so much, or there's so much research to be done and learnings to be done as well. And so therefore we want to go like, or want to join the journey as well and be a role model as well. And Marloes also brought like Madaster, which is a material cadastre for the built environment, to Switzerland. And that's one of our own projects. And we learn day by day by kind of like bringing Madaster to the market and enabling a circular economy in the built environment through Madaster. And these learnings we're feeding back to our magazine, to our academy part, but also to kind of like the implementation workshops we do together with customers. So my key takeaways is kind of like, I think I'm talking to many young students here, or young talents, and I think my goal is kind of like to inspire you to like start a career in one of these fields as well. And since it's such a, or I have worked for about 2 years in this field already, and my learnings from it is kind of like, be an entrepreneur because the world is quite uncertain. So adapt fast, learn every single day, ask the right question. And I think that's quite important when it comes to procurement or when it comes to product design, what Fabian mentioned already. Train your soft skills, be like empathic to your like clients, to your colleagues and so on, and find solutions based on them. Because I think like the old KPIs do not work this much, or work not anymore. Nevertheless, I feel like cash flows are still important, because even though you work for a sustainable company, you're not sustainable anymore if you're not here, or if you're not in the market anymore after half a year. So make sure that your cash flow is right as well, and that you can be a sustainable, growing company. And the last thing is kind of like, do not think in ecosystems anymore, think in ecosystems, and see kind of like who is in your value chain, who could make use of your waste, who could make, or which kind of waste do you need to create a new product, to create a new business model, and so on. So therefore, having this systemic mindset is so important. Yeah, that was already my presentation. I feel, oh, sorry, there's one slide left. I mentioned it at the end. Think in ecosystem, and we are aware that we can't do it alone. So therefore, we're part of an ecosystem, and we're part of a network as well. We have Swiss Triple Impact as our network partner. We write articles for the C2. They're our media partner. We write articles for them. And then we're also part of Circular Economy Switzerland and are an active member there. I think that's quite valuable for us. So thereby I give the word back to Ilaria, and thank you for your attention as well.
Thank you very much, Marco, for presenting what Circular Hub does in short, very condensed way. Thanks a lot. So yeah, this is how we work. We're organized decentrally, as I said, and we're only a small part of the movement. Like, we're the part who coordinates it, but the action happens outside through the organizations, through the companies that really engage, that try to promote circular economy solutions, that try to sensitize the public, sensitize their environment. And so the shift, but really my takeaway message should be that the shift from the linear economy to a circular one can only happen if we all, or organizations, if we all work together throughout all sectors and on all levels. Yeah, so that's my take-home message. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, Ilaria, and thank you, Marco. So yeah, I really liked your conclusion, and yeah, if I can add it, just wanted to say that at the end, it's always also a bit in the hand of the consumer. So at the end, with our hand that goes in our pocket and takes the money to buy things, we are the people that are actually deciding which company we want to support and which we do not want to support. So yeah, just a reminder to everyone that like at the end we have a lot of power in our hands, even if a lot of people say, yeah, you're just one person, you can't make a difference, but actually we can, so don't forget that. And yeah, now to go to our Q&A session, I just read a really long question in our chat. Thanks a lot, Anis, for your interest. So I think maybe the first part was already a bit answered, I think, with the key takeaways that Marco said. Yeah, if you have other doubts, you can also write another questions. And he also asked about yeah, what the changes are here in Switzerland, and if the changes are at the moment, like if they're sufficient, and or that we need, you know, how can I say that? Yeah, if we need another kick to make a bigger impact. So yeah, that's the last part of his question. So feel free to reply.
Honestly, from my perspective, it's rather hard to answer this one. I think there's always more we can do, and I think when we look at the Earth Overshoot Day, I think that's already a good indication that we should do more, because it's still like taking place in June in Switzerland, for example. But I'm pretty sure Fabian knows more about that.
Yeah. They just read the other question coming in. Probably we can combine the answer. I think there are like on different levels, different things to do. There's a lot going on in industry, but it's not enough. If you're looking at the number of CO2 emission and the resource consumption, I mean, there are some trends and probably there, but it's not enough and it's not fast enough. I mean, that's one point. To the individual question, I think the comment was really nice from you just before. As an individual, you have a leverage somehow, and everybody in every company is also an individual with a mindset and an awareness. And you can't, I don't really like if people say, yeah, the system is really complex, politics has to change. I mean, we are politics, especially in Switzerland. And for the really concrete question, I mean, 50% of our own impact, CO2 impact now, but also on resources, is on consumption level. So if you're looking at only CO2, stop eating meat. I mean, that's the leverage where you have in nutrition or like in the food. If you have it on consumption, like material consumption, start to be secondhand. I mean, buy everything you can secondhand, or reduce the amount of things you need. So minimalism style is somehow what you can do as an individual. So then you have a leverage in this 50%. Then for mobility, as I showed the example with flying and also other kinds of mobility action as well. I think that's the three big areas: mobility, food, and consumption. And then you can reduce that from 12 or 20 to nearly 5 or 4 tons per year, only on CO2 level. Resources, another perspective. Yeah. And probably to the other question shortly, I think what we sometimes forget, people on this planet lived circularly shortly before the peak of fossil industry. So if we ask our grandparents if that would be possible, they were really circular. I mean, they used a lot of circular patterns. So circularity and being how can you say, like being aware on natural cycles is really a human aspect of life. So we forget about that because it's like we can buy everything really fast and so on. But if we don't change, and this happens, what like climate scientists say, then it's changed by disaster. And probably go back to circular economy because there's no other way of dealing. I mean, if there is no fossil fuels anymore, how you want to deal with plastics? I mean, you understand what I tried to say to you. So I think it's easier than we think, and also the sufficiency approach is easier. So speak with people having nothing than some clothes and some stuff at home. I mean, they are not less lucky and happy in their life. So
yeah, thank you very much, Fabian. That was really insightful, and also the tips that you told us. They're like really little things that we can do every day. Also a bit reducing our consumption in general. And yeah, so now if someone still wants to ask something, you can also turn your microphone on. We would be really happy also to hear something from you. And yeah, maybe we can wait a minute to see if someone has still a question.
I mean, Fabian, I really liked your answer, and I think it's super important and super true what you just said. At the end of the day, we just have to be aware that kind of like everything around us is designed by us. So, and if we understand that, if we understand this systematic problem, we can actually find solutions, and these are quite easy. And I mean, for me, I've been working in this kind of like field for a couple of years already. But when I saw, like, when was that, September maybe or October, this new movie from David Attenborough, it was super eye-opening. I think that's one of the easiest starts to kind of like think this whole topic. And you will find out quite soon that nature will survive, but will we? And I think that's, or do we have the right to survive? I think that's one of the biggest questions, and we have to find solutions to that. Fabian, you're
yeah, you can bring it to another level as well. I mean, I study economic for about 4 years, and if you're looking from an economic perspective, I mean, you can also reduce the size of the system without losing comfort, without losing happiness, and so on. Because I mean, if you have to buy less stuff, you don't need so much money, you don't have to earn so much, then you can work less, and then you have more free time. And combined with sufficiency or Subsistenzwirtschaft, in English, I'm not sure to say it, frugality as a so economic principle, I mean, it fits together. So that's what the degrow movement says. I don't say that's the only solution, but it's really interesting. If you combine that all, you see, probably it makes you much happier. It's not, we don't have to feel that after a circular and sufficient change, we feel not happy anymore. I mean, probably happier than now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, also just sorry, quick
go
input.
on.
So yeah, so I really think the 3 levels that you said, food, mobility, and consumption, really like sums it up really well. And I think to like a first way to now start on a, let's say, citizen or a consumer level to start trying to change something in your lifestyle is really like your everyday habits. If you think about, I should have a new jeans, then maybe look up for a company that sells sustainable jeans, as you said, like for example, nudie jeans, or like meat. Yeah, it's just that's a whole other topic. Trying to eat less meat, become vegetarian eventually. It's also one part, but practically, there are more and more organizations offering like products as services. So instead of buying something, you can just buy a service. IKEA is, I think, also starting a pilot now where you can rent furniture. For example, they're trying to do it also with students that just live in a city for like a year or two, that they put a whole room of new furniture and then they could give it back. So also like these take back schemes, that things are reused, that loops are closed. So it's just about your everyday actions. And start to think about, become more aware of the decisions you take or make every day. That's just my more practical input, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a super important point. At the end of the day, it's also kind of like when we talk about kind of these leasing subscription models, whatever, or like you buy a cradle to cradle certified chair or whatever, you have to inform, or like the consumer has to be informed about it. if you buy a cradle-to-cradle certified share and it ends up at Hakenholz in Zurich, for example, the whole circularity process or like principle didn't work out. And I think that's super important. And yeah.
Do we have
Fabian,
one more comment?
So,
yeah, absolutely. I think it's very interesting.
Thank you very much. I think what is really important is also to divide between B2B and B2C. I mean, in the B2B area, we have a lot of potential because with such kind of revenue models also, because as a company, you don't have to own the carpet, as I said before. And I think there you have a big leverage because it's a big amount. And then we have individual level. And I think there are also nice companies out there providing like future customers with future and circular solutions. But we have to stop also, and that's my personal opinion here also, is to look for solutions for sustainable fast fashion. It won't work. I mean, you can't have a shirt for 5 times, throw it away, and then recycle it. I mean, it doesn't make sense from an overall perspective. So there are consumer patterns out there, they're not healthy for environment. And we have acknowledged that and look, how can we provide solutions that like change also consumer behavior somehow? Because I mean, this is that the fast fashion trend has no future. I mean, they say in 20 years, it's so much waste more in textiles, but probably it breaks down before. We don't know that. So from a research perspective.
Yeah, so thank you. I really appreciate that you also mentioned fast fashion. It's like a topic that's very important to me. And unfortunately, a lot of people still aren't really aware of it. And yeah, also someone in the chat, Valentin, said it's the same thing such as sustainable diesel. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert on the topic, so but I can imagine that's true. And yeah, so thank you very much. I really appreciated these last minutes where you were just a bit discussing between you, and yeah, it was really insightful. And thanks again for yeah, all this interesting information that you told us. I hope that really that everyone that followed until now or also just followed a bit of the webinar that became more informed and more aware, and yeah, everyone can make a change. So thanks to everyone and have a nice evening.
Thank you very much for having us.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice evening.
you.
Thank you.